My friends, in this tutorial, I'm going to show you the basics on how to play Frippertronics, which is a technique that was popularized by guys like Brian Eno and Robert Fripp, who gave his name to the Frippertronics. And it's super nice to play. It creates soundscapes like you've heard in this intro. And I'm going to show you all the basics on how to do that. So let's get started. All right, so the technique to play Frippertronics is pretty simple. We're going to use the longest delay time available on our delay pedal, and we are going to play notes that are going to form chords and layer on top of each other. It's kind of looping without a looper if you think about it, because it's very, very long delays. So I recommend not less than 4 seconds of delay time to get the best results and something that sounds like what I did in the intro, right? And unfortunately, many delay pedals do not allow for super long delay times. Most of them will go up to 1.5, maybe 2 or 3 seconds, but very rarely to 4 seconds or more. So if you have a delay pedal that you know goes up to 4 and more, maybe you can write it in the comment section below so that we can help each other and find the right pedals for our needs. So if you look at my pedal board right now, you barely see it, but I have the strum and the capiston right here. It goes up to 1.5 seconds, which is not enough. And even the Strymon timeline, which is a big, powerful box with lots of options, it can go up to 2500 milliseconds, which is 2.5 seconds. It's really on the shorter side. But thanks to my friend Mikhail Medvedev, he showed me a trick to hack the timeline in getting more up to 20 seconds of delay time. So the way to do that is to use the dual mode, which gives you 2 delays at the same time. And then we're going to use the second delay only. So if I go in the inside parameters and I choose the timing of the second delay, I'm going to go up to a ratio of 8:1. So it's like all the way to the right. It means that the second delay it's going to create in the dual machine is going to be 8 times as long as the first one. So if the biggest time that we have is 2.5, or the longest time rather, is 2.5 seconds, times 8, we get up to 20 seconds. So the only thing we have to do right now is to put the mix knob of the first delay all the way off so that we hear only the second one, and then we can adjust the repeats as we'd like, so we can get up to 20 seconds. That's not what I'm going to do for this tutorial, because it would be way too long to listen to and to watch this video. So I'm going to use 1000 milliseconds, which is going to be 8 seconds, because 1 second times 8 is 8 seconds, and that's going to be just perfect for what I want to demonstrate, just long enough for a great Frippertronics piece right here. So what happens is that we are going to play one note at a time to form a chord, and we'll let the repeats from the delay create the layers like this. So I'm going to play ambient swells with my volume pedal. I already have like a second really, really short delay for ambience and a reverb pedal. And that's going to sound like this. So I'm going to create an E major chord by swelling individual notes. So now, even if I don't play anymore, you have all the layers ringing and giving you that like E major chord soundscape, and it's gonna slowly fade away. It depends on your repeat settings on the pedal. So if you put it at the middle at noon like this, it's gonna gradually fade away. If you put it all the way to the left, you're gonna have only 1 repeat, so that can be pretty handy to change chords really, really fast. We're going to come to it in this tutorial later. And if you put it on the higher side, to like 3 o'clock, then it's gonna be pretty much infinite. It's gonna ring indefinitely. And if you go even further than that, then it's gonna self-oscillate and go into a lot of chaos, which I don't recommend for Frippertronics. So I'm gonna leave it pretty much at noon like this. So now if you want to go further, because it can be nice to have like a single chord soundscape and work more on the textures, because by the way, you can use more than just ambient swells. You could do it with drones or with an EBow or all techniques that I showed in this video series. If you haven't seen them, it's like videos 1, 2, and 9 of the series for ambient swells, ambient drones, and EBow playing. You can watch the playlist if you want right here. So let's say I could do the same thing with a drone patch on my Strymon Big Sky. So I could play something like this. So it's exactly the same principle. Now it's just like looping with the delays like this. It's just a different texture, right? So you can use swells, drones, EBows, any texture you want. It's gonna work well. In my case, I play a lot with a clean sound. You could even add some distortion like Robert Fripp was doing. There was a lot of gain in the sound. That's a totally different kind of sound that you can go for. But like I said, you can go further if you want, because it's nice to play one chord for 1 or 2 or 3 songs, but at a certain point, you want your soundscapes to evolve, to go somewhere. And the best way to do that is to have a full chord progression. But it's quite tricky with Frippertronics because the chords are ringing for so long because of the long delays that it can be really hard to change chords in a smooth way. So the best way to approach that is to use chords that have notes in common, 1 or 2 notes in common in the same key. That way you can play and focus on the notes in common, stop playing the note of the first chord that isn't on the next chord, and after a while, once you hear only the notes in common and that the previous note is barely audible anymore, now you can introduce the new note of the next chord. And then that's going to transition super smoothly to the next chord, right? So I'm going to turn off the super long delay so that we can talk about the chords for a while. So let's say that I use the same chord, right? E major. I'm in the key of E major. The notes of that chord are E, G sharp, and B, right? So if I use, for example, the third chord in my E major key, which is G sharp minor, in that chord we have the notes G sharp, B, and D sharp, right? So the G sharp and the B are notes in common. So what I can do is that once I'm ready to go to the G sharp minor, I'm gonna stop playing E notes, and then I'm going to focus on playing G sharps and Bs only. And when I'm ready, now I can introduce the D sharp note and the big bass note of my G sharp minor chord. And that's going to create the next chord, right? So I'm going to turn on the long delays. I'm going to do it with ambient swells once again. So I start by playing my E chord. So now I'm gonna stop playing E's. Oh, I played another note right here. Just B and G sharp. So now we barely hear the E anymore, so I can play the D sharp and the big G sharp bass note. And that was a smooth transition to my G sharp minor chord, and there wasn't like any friction or like conflict between the two chords. So with that principle in mind, you could decide to create an entire chord progression. So if I use E major like this and then G sharp minor, I could play next a B chord, B major, right? So in my G sharp minor, which is what the previous chord, we had G sharp, B, and D sharp. And in my B chord, we have B, D sharp, and F sharp. So once again, I can focus on playing Bs and D sharps and introduce after a few seconds the F sharp to create my B chord, right? And then you won't always have two notes in common, so sometimes you will have to play just one note for a while. So let's say that the fourth chord of my progression would be something like a C sharp minor 7. Then the only note in common is going to be the B. So I'm going to drone the B for a while before playing this chord, and I'm going to end the song by going back to my first E chord and wrapping up the Frippertronics soundscape. So let's try that. It's gonna sound super, super nice. I'm gonna start once again on E. All right, I'm gonna focus on B and G sharp only. Now I'm going to introduce my G sharp minor chord. Okay, so now I'm gonna stop playing the G sharps and play only the Bs and the D sharp so that I can go to my B chord soon. And introduce the F sharp and the big B. So now let's focus on B only. Okay, so now I can play my C sharp. And then slowly let the big C sharp note go so that I can play my big E note. And let it fade away to make my song. So you see the principle, right? Notes in common to change from one chord to another. And if you look at my Strymon timeline right now, you can see that my repeats were in the middle, so it was a quicker way to change chords. If I had the repeats down, I could change chords even quicker. And if you have it really, really long, it can take a long time before you can change chords because the notes are going to ring for a very, very long time. That's it. Thanks for watching my Frippertronics basic tutorial. If you want to go further with me, like always, I have my free course, A Beginner's Guide to Ambient Guitar, that you can get first link in the description box below. I'm going to show you how to create many different types of sounds, how to layer them on the looper to create your first ambient guitar pieces. If you want something a little bit more structured than Frippertronics, that it's less improvised, yes, and more like a real song that you loop with ambient guitar techniques, you can check it out. It's the first link in the description box below, and it's totally for free. It's my gift to you for watching my video until the end. Until next time, au revoir.